highly thankful to him because whenever we invite him to this dialogue, wholeheartedly he participates despite his hectic preoccupations, travel, academic activity. Therefore, let me invite Professor Balram Singh for his kind participation. Please make your presentation, Professor Balram Singh.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you, Professor Gopinath, Professor Bhat. It is an honor and privilege to be part of this discussion. Can you see my slides?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's wonderful to listen to so many presentations and learn so much in the process. I find really it's fascinating. One of the things that, a couple of things that I would like to point out. First one is that, several comments have been made and, being a speaker, initially I was listed to be, I think, number 3, and I just arrived actually in the United States. So I got up quite early to make my presentation. And then was later on moved down, and then supposed to have been presenting maybe an hour ago. And so we are not following our own system. This is just a learning. We say something and we do something. And I think this is very important for the cost and burner system also. Second thing is that we said that we need to give guidance to our younger generations. And I find really there is no younger generation. I do have maybe 25% of your audience is my either students or colleagues who are younger generations. They have been very patiently waiting for this presentation. And I think it's important to have audience. If we don't have younger audience, we are guiding them. So it's very important that we follow that. We also need to follow, we have only a small number of people who are presenting this. Maybe 15, if you take my colleagues and students out, then you probably about 15 people. And if people just come to make presentation and leave, that's not a dialogue or any conversation or discussion. So that is not going to go anywhere. I mean, I can speak my mind and then leave, and we are not even understanding each other. So this is not a tradition. I point this out, all this, because not because I want to berate anybody, but I want to talk about a system that works. Now, we are talking about a system. Burn Vyavastha is also a system. And it is normally initially presented in a very simplified way, which people think that this is the right thing, good thing to do. It's supposed to have an operation. It has a good intent, very good intent initially. Even if dividing people like Bhatji said and others have talked about, giving some symbolism of Brahma's mouth and shoulders and thighs and legs. This is just a symbolism. It all initially makes sense, but then later on it gets corrupted in practice. And initially, whether it is ideal to understand, it's ideal to have started this series that we are talking about, monthly seminar to understand each other and also guide to younger people. But if we are not listening to each other, we are not understanding each other, there is no way we are getting anywhere. We do not have younger people as audience, we are not getting any guidance to anybody. So this is very important. I think the deterioration is natural. It happens naturally because we are all very busy, or other people have their own ideas. When the system of Varn Vyavastha created, then slowly people do not understand the ideal conditions. And in other conditions, we do not really work hard enough. And so there is an inertia. And that inertia or jaratva is the one which is the cause of deterioration. And this is not just human beings. Even though Dr. Santa mentioned, and perhaps already left, so I don't think he's listening to what I'm saying. This nature is from an atom to a man, or even galaxies. Everything is destined to be deteriorated, and it's because of inertia. I think we talked about last time, Dr. Gopinath, you had suggested another topic of Yugadharma. And my presentation was this all depends on karma. If we do not do the karma, then it is not going to be sustained. So it's very important that we understand from that point of view. So if we create inertia, then slowly what happens, because some of us claim or maybe even given a position, and then others, then they find that there is the gap between what we say and what we practice. And so there is a resistance. The fourth stage of this process is resistance. And then there is some reform has been done, talked about Dr. Ambedkar, Mahatma Gandhi, and many other sages have tried to do some reformations. And then there is a transformation. You start, this is the process. I think transformation is very important to have now a transformation. And those principles of transformation probably will last longer again and before they start deteriorating. And so, but ultimately, this is a very important point. Ultimately, because we are having an intellectual conversation here, it is important to know that if Sanatan, something is Sanatan, if Bhagwan Krishna had said this, or some sages have said that, if that is really the case, it will return. And so we shouldn't, before I agree with Dr. Bhat that let's get rid of Varna system, let's not have the Sudras, we can write like Mr. Kuller was saying, we can just write a law maybe, and then, get rid of Sudras, let's get rid of Dalits. That's escapism. That's not how things happen. And so I give an example. When I was young, I started studying science. And was not allowed to go in my mother's kitchen unless I had taken shower. I thought that was some kind of pakhand, a ritualistic thing, had nothing to do with science. But now today in Corona time, everybody is appreciating. Everybody is appreciating that you need to clean your hands, you need to wash this, and you cannot touch this, you cannot touch that. And there have been this caste system where it's not only a question of 4 varnas, they were untouchables were created. And again, they may have been created with good intention at one time. Currently, right now, I am sitting in a hotel room. I arrived here yesterday. I'm sitting in a hotel room, and I am actually untouchable to my family because my family told me I need to quarantine myself for 14 days. And so I even as my family, they're not comfortable that I go there because of whatever we have understood about science today, about Corona today. So just because certain things have been deteriorated doesn't mean that ultimate truth or the eternal principles are wrong. They're not wrong. They will only time will tell. So we shouldn't be in rush to run and say, well, let's discard this, let's discard that. I think we need to create an understanding and we need to create the practice. Now, all that said, since I have been moved back, Professor Gopinath, I hope you wouldn't mind if I take a little bit more time because I'm responding to some of these things. And I know you have some time for discussion, but I think your time will be over by the time you get to the discussion point. But I do want to talk about the social institutions in, that how it has been seen, where you have, there have been some discussion about marriage, how the horoscope is matched, how the caste is matched. I personally want to say that I belong to Sudra caste. Even though by birth I'm born in a Kshatriya family, I don't do anything like a Kshatriya. I according to Swami Vivekananda, if you provide service and take salary, you are a Sudra, and I'm happy to be Sudra. Why? What is wrong with that? But it is also true that when you are doing marriage or you are doing other kind of relationships, then you have to consider your mindset, the kind of person you are meeting with, kind of person you are going to spend your rest of your life, or you will raise family. And that is very important. Horoscope is a very deteriorated form that we are seeing today. Horoscope. Jyotish is a very different thing. Ayurveda has a huge amount of research done. Now actually modern research done, genetics done, metabolomics done, which talks about people having biomarkers of particular Vata or Pitta or Kapha. So making it very casual remark, I think it does not serve the purpose. And I think it hurts if we do half-baked ideas and without having a proper discussion and debate and understanding, I think we do a disservice. So I would recommend very highly that if you want to continue this series, please make sure that you have properly organized, properly managed, and properly attended, and proper way of dialoguing, rather than just saying something and then everybody listens to everybody in 15 minutes and goes away. I think it does harm because some of us are affected by all that. So with that, I think the caste is a new concept that is social deterioration, where we have, although we talk about Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudras, but they are really, the way we are practicing is not anywhere close to the ideal that it was created. There have been books written about Indian society. Many other problems there have been, that also, like child marriages, and I think one of the speakers, I forget the name of the lady who talked about the marriage and the women, how the women are treated differently and all that things, which is, I think, some Nair who was talking about controlling factor, which is very important. People want to control, so they find all kind of ways to control. Today's controlling factor is business. There are corporate houses who control everybody. People's lives are controlled. In young women, I think Professor Nair would be interested in knowing, young women today who are highly accomplished professionals, they're preserving their eggs because they don't have time to have children. They're preserving their eggs. Maybe sometimes in the future they will have a child. Why? Because the corporate world is controlling them. So if you really are talking about controlling by men or by higher caste, lower caste, or children or women or whatever that is, then you have to consider all kind of things. You can't just ignore one side of it and then only propose the other side of it. I mean, any kind of control, the moment you talk about control, is a control and control of human beings, and that is a problem in the society that we are having today. So with that, I want to talk about in favor of caste, in favor of jatis. They're not caste actually. They are known as jatis, which is, the word comes from gyati. That is how you are known. And India has 68,000 jatis. Only about 4,500 jatis have been identified. A jati is something that expresses your freedom. Actually, in reality, in science and perhaps in philosophy, every one of us are different. There is no way to make all of us the same. Every one of our genetics is different. My sound is different. My thumb imprint is different. My tongue is different. My face is different. And that was so different that it was never before and never after. So talk about this, that we can get rid of just because we don't know how to practice, is just, I think, a travesty. It will be a travesty. I think a system of as great as Dharma, where people have discussed and accepted even enemies' viewpoint of view, I think we need to accept that and, more importantly, practice that. So I think jati is an expression of freedom. It is an expression of diversity, and human diversity is very, very important. Despite what Dr. Santa says, I think that is in the cause of evolution, and evolution is part of it. Part of the if you want to consider it as Paramatma is Anant. And unless you have diversity, there is no Anant. And if there is no Anant, then the whole idea of Paramatma goes away. So I think this is very important to take it from that point of view. Diversity can be, in today's science, it can be calculated in terms of entropy, and that is predicted force in today's world, at least in science, that entropy is a predictive force. So I want to discuss, like I said, I may take a little bit more time, and I hope that people do not mind that much. The knowledge comes from spirituality, where we have to detach ourselves from everything and attach to, might call it Paramatma or the consciousness or whatever that is, and then we come up with philosophies of all kind in different places, different kind of philosophy to explain to people, which is very, very important, and that's what I think we are doing. And people like Professor Bhat have done a marvelous job of bringing the philosophy to the level where people can at least understand it, from the comparative purposes. And then you create a social structure. Now, social structure depends on who dominates. And I think Professor Nair, the lady who was talking about all the great things actually about how the people control, this social structure is imposed by different people. And in this case, what we are seeing is actually Western concept of social structure. This is Western concept. This whole thing is the whole idea of caste came from Portuguese, and the whole idea of God, and then God, has some people closure and some people do not have closure. It's not an Indian concept. We have had so many types of people, all kind of people, and there a lot of things has been mentioned, and I wouldn't talk about, except that I can talk about Ravi Das, Kabir Das, Tulsi Das, Sur Das. These are all, by the way, the Das word is considered as a something that is derogatory today, but that is an entirely different thing. Some other day we can talk about it. But more important thing is that then a structure is created. The structure gets converted into the management, and this management can be socio-religious management and some kind of justification, and that justifies the caste today. And then that becomes socio-political. The socio-religious becomes socio-political and economic. And that is really the what driving today. Whether it's people are asking for caste or they do not want the caste, they denounce the caste, they take pride in caste. All this thing is because of socio-political, and it is not ready to go right now as long as it's part of the political agenda, because that really brings out what would be known as a controlling mechanism. The whole governance system is based on that. It's not going to go away. I think we as intellectuals, if we want to, we need to think about a different system, not this system. This system will not allow this. So just to give you a background, in the old days, all kind of caste people used to be kings. The Suhail Dev was supposedly today's OBC, but he was a king, and he gave a good fight to Mahmud Ghaznavi, and so much so that 100 years nobody showed up. So Raja Suhail Dev is a very famous king, and he defended the dharma, he defended the country. And there are others who have done similar thing. Nisad was a king, even though there was a Chakravarti Raja Dasarath, but Nisad was also a king next door. Bali was a king. So these people were not supposedly Kshatriyas or Brahmins. That system allowed that. We need to think back rather than saying that we need to get rid of everything because we are not able to practice it. I want to talk a little bit about science. We don't go into too much details. I normally go, but science is defined, and I only want to pay attention to the last part of it: objective versus subjective. Western science that I practice in my laboratory is objective science. I think Eastern science has a subjective science, whereby we deliberately detach ourselves from our own interest. And then when we detach ourselves, which is where I think Dr. Santa was talking about, then you can know the knowledge. We don't need to go to learn from atoms. The only reason we learn from atoms is because we are not at that level. When we reach at that level of realization, then of course everything comes from us, because we are the one who are talking about it. And there is a mechanism for that. And there is a level of effort and enlightenment that is involved in that process. But so there is science can be both objective and subjective. There is no reason to fight about it. We just need to be in a situation where we are, and we need to understand what we are trying to do. Now, based on that, I want to just talk about the caste and jati. The research has been done based on the objective science. It's been published in Proceedings of National Academy of Science in 2006. They took India's all kind of population, tribal, caste groups, and also the rest of the world, Indo-European, Dravidian, Austroasiatic, Tibeto-Burman. And what they found is very interesting, that they found that all Indian caste tribes, whether North Indian, South Indian, they are together, except for some tribal Northeast. But they are so much away from Western or Ethiopian or Mongolian. So, it is very important that within India, there is some variation, but they are one close group. So talking about this caste somehow superiority, inferiority makes no sense at all, at least not from the science point of view. So talking about science of Sudras, I think we really want to talk about, and you need to talk about science rather than just pseudoscience people talk about. With that, what I want to say a little bit about caste. Caste is the word that came from Europe. They practice it. That's why they have word. If you don't have the word caste in your system, then you're not practicing it. Almost all the culture is confined in the language that you use. So it's very important the kind of language we use. They also, another word they use called serf, which is also the Western world, that they had feudal society and in which they practiced this. Now they imposed on us because we were colonized by them and they kind of put their system. There is nothing wrong with that. But look at this, the word das, I told earlier, which many times people think is very derogatory. It's mentioned in Rig Veda several places. It means to shine, to give, to grant, to offer. If you really want to look at that, then whether we are practicing or not, but that we cannot blame the system. The system actually puts them on top, not on the bottom. They are on the top. If you are talking about dasis, even today people put their name as Priya Ranjan Das, Sudipto Das, all kind of, even if you forget about Tulsi Das, Sur Das, and Kabir Das. So this is in our Ravi Das. It is an enlightened view of Das, is a very enlightened view. And we are not practicing it, so we can, if we want to give it away, then we have to give away our Vedas. Now I want to talk about what is Sudra. Sudras, from Wikipedia, I found, is one, they are involved with, they are associated with the creation of earths and production activities. That's what Sudras are. We need to understand that. Like I said, I consider myself to be Sudra because I take salary for what service I provide. There is nothing wrong with that. Just because I'm professor doesn't mean I cannot be a Sudra. I can be a good, I have to be very good Sudra. Doctors are Sudra, engineers are Sudras, because they are the one who are creating. They are the one who produce. And including myself, I produce the students. So I think that the word Sudra needs to be understood, debated, and then practiced. Similarly, we also talk about the origin of Sudras in where it comes from. Sudra it means they are very, very sensitive. They are very subtle. We are talking about Professor Bhat talked about, the leg or the feet are to be the Sudras, and we somehow, everybody says, even though we talk about all this glorious thing that everything is on them, of course they say, Sudras today say, of course everything is on them. But then, they are at the bottom. Everything is on them, but they are at the bottom. Nobody pays attention to them. So by just giving slogans will not help. I think we need to understand what that is, the bottom is. We need to understand that analogy, that metaphor that has been used. So Sudras are known to be very sensitive and very subtle. What is subtle today in today's world is atom. Atom is very powerful. We have atomic bomb. We do not have Dr. Santa bomb, even no matter what he says. We have atomic bomb that is very powerful. Everything is made up of that. So they are really the basis. They are the foundation. In terms of language, I think they are really the basis of this entire world. And they are the one who produce and they are the one who give. So why are we thinking like this? It's because our understanding, our misunderstanding, and our practice is the problem. Our means the so-called upper caste or people who are in power, and they need to give it to me and to give it to somebody. And that's really the crux of the issue that we need to understand. I now want to go towards the end of my discussion, and we recently published a paper where we have questioned, myself and Dr. Aparna Dheer Khandelwal have just published a paper in Pragya Prachi in December 2020. It talks about, we really have questioned the very meaning that had, at least we have checked 40 different commentaries about this from the Bhagavad Gita, and they almost all of them, either they have ignored the real meaning or they have misinterpreted. So in that sense, what we want like to say, the Vedic society talked about Varna Vyavastha, Sudra Varna, to be very high. They were the one who really built, like they were architects, they were the artisans, and they are the one who today, even Professor Bhat talked about in his village. One important thing in that, not only because they may play a role in the marriage and death and things like that, but most important thing is that they are the one who are independent. They do not do naukari. We are thinking about all this. Mr. Khullar was here and he's in the government, but he's still basically a naukar. For all the great information, intellectually very, very enlightening thing he said, but he's just a government naukar. He doesn't have any freedom. Like he told that he's not going to be able to announce himself because he's a part of the government. But lohare, kumhare, badhai, rathkare, sunare, or adhobi, they can say whatever they want. Dhobi was able to say to even question Ram for God's sake. He was able to question, and Ram did not say that there was anything wrong. In today's, if we question, we get disappear. People, if they question government, they suddenly disappear from the world. But that's not how it was. So in Vedic society, it was practiced, and in today's society, unfortunately, it is not practiced. We have Savarn and we have Sudras. I mean, I don't think Sudra is also Savarn in my opinion. And like I hope I have been able to make a point that that they are the basis, they are the foundation, they are superior. And so looking for reservation for them makes no sense. Making them Naukar makes no sense, because they are the Malik. They are the Malik, not the Naukar, because they are the one who run the society. We are all dependent on them. When again, I want to say we means the so-called upper caste people. So now I want to go back to the crux of our paper recently be published. Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam Guru Karma Vibhagasa has been already explained. What I want to explain is this. This is the sloka of in the series where they talk about Brahman, which is talks about damos tapas saucham shantir raj mecha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma svabhajam. He talks about Kshatriya as Shauryam Tejo Dhritir Dakhyam Yuddhe Chapi Palayanam Jnanam Danam Ishwar Bhavasya Chhatra Karma Svabhavajam. And then he talks about Krisi Gauraksha Vanijam Vaisya Karma Svabhavajam. And the last one is Paricharyatmakam Karma Sudrasya Api Svabhavajam. The important thing here is Api. He's talking about all four Varnas and says Sudra Api. Sudra ka bhi swabhav hai. Iska matlab baki whatever the three other categories we talked about, seva is everybody's swabhav. Doing the service is everybody must have it. And those who do not have that, they are the one who are not savarnas. So anybody, I have no problem saying that if you do not have a seva bhav, and I'm sorry, I do not consider you part of the varnas, fine, I can defend that. So varna is something that you choose. I think nobody talked about the meaning. It means varana karna. Varna means varana karna. Of course, there is a category of it, but based on your own innate nature and innate potential, you choose this and you get trained and you do very well. And then Sudras are the one who are defining to all the three. So rather than they being at the bottom, they are really the basis of everything. And that is what my idea presentation was. So this Harijan, we talked about four Varnas, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaisya, Sudra. They all must do the seva. They must do the service. That should be in their nature. But those who do not have that, they are not part of Savarnas. And you can take care of them. You can. There may be basis. There may be a prejudice. There may be a exploitation. We must discuss about that. But we should not talk about Sudras. Sudras are the people who are the basis. And we must take care. I'm not saying that we should not take care of the people who are not Savarnas. I think they should also be taken. We are a culture that we take care of everything, every little thing, being and non-living also. So there is no question about that. We still be taken care, but this should not be confused between Savarnas and Avarnas. So then when you really look at that, you find that Sudras the highest level is Vishwakarma. All the Sudras, they even write their last name to be Vishwakarma today. Also, there are people who are Prajapati and others who write, they take their origin from Prajapati, Brahma, because they are Praja. And they also write Prajapati as their last name. And Prajapati is the originator of this universe. And so there is no reason for them to feel that somehow they are inferior. It is up to them. I have several of my students and colleagues who supposedly belong to this Sudra class. I've told them, take your position rather than complain about it. And I think nobody gives anybody anything in this world, today's world at least. So you have to claim your position by your own practice, by your own karma. And if we are able to do that, it has been always, the system of democracy that we are practicing must convert into Praja democracy, where people are Malik, not Naukar. And in that case, they will be able to, we wrote a paper and published in Indian Journal of Political Science in 2014, where we are trying to say that we need to practice Praja democracy, not Republic democracy. And where Praja means intense, bright, refined, strong, developed, productive, creative. That's what Praja means. And not just because we can put a stamp on a vote. and that will be praja. That's not how it is going to be. And this system was practiced in Ramraj, where the first thing was to keep your word. And I'm trying to remind again to Dr. Gopinath that if you come up with a program and don't follow it, you're not following what system is supposed to be, at least in the Ramraj. Then you're supposed to keep your word for everybody and then consider others to be important. Welfare for others is very important, not my welfare. I keep word for taking care of others. And those others are, in case of Ram's time, that included from plants to animals to human beings to even angels. And Ram was able to follow, and only others. Actually, he did not follow. I think Dr. Nair was talking about, how Sita couldn't say the same thing with Ram. Actually, that's really not true. This is just, I think that was a disservice. Otherwise, wonderful presentations he made. Sita actually did that. Ram was only saying that. Sita refused Ram's words, and actually she moved. She went to earth symbolically, whatever that means. But she refused. She did what she wanted to do. But you have to be like Sita. You cannot be looking for all kind of privileges. Sita did not take the privilege. She went to jungle and raised her children in such a way that they never, ever raised a voice against their father. And then she refused Ram's order or request. She said, no, I'm going to go away. And she did go away. So it is, I think sometimes we bring our own ideas and that creates a problem. And so the last point in Ramraj was, according to the self-reliant, independent view of free praja. Praja means they are free. They are not naukar. They are not looking for anything from anybody. And that's the system that was in that time. We need to redefine the praja today. It may be all the information technology people. It may be all the virtual people. It may be all kind of biotechnology people, whatever that is. And government should be created in that way. And then only we can do that. And this is a system that is also practiced in science. We have Vesti, and also is, by the way, in philosophy, we have Vesti, which is psyche of our mind. And then we have a society that we are surrounded by, we cannot be away from it. Then we have the whole environment, maybe the whole planet. Then we have the whole samasti, or the whole galaxy, or the whole Brahmand, or the whole universe. And we are affected. This is called system and surrounding. Each one of us can be a system, and the rest of us are surrounding. And this is the real meaning of Yat Pinde Tat Brahmande, because we are not away from each other. So that whatever is outside is inside, and whatever is inside is outside. When there is a resonance, when there is an understanding, and that we need to create, and then only we can talk about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. But not on caste-based society. We have to think about Eko Aham Bahusyami. The caste is just different forms of us, and then they are our family. Then there is no problem. And this is what practiced in case of Ram, where he really believed in everything and everybody, and he practiced that. Now the world is going to be after you. They create their own definition of world order. The Henry Kissinger has written a book on world order. Noam Chomsky has written a book on world order. There are so many other ways I can talk about world order. That's not the topic today. But world order is created not by you, by somebody else. And when you take that, like you're talking about, Dr. Bhat, that let's get rid of Sudras, that is not your world order. That is our world order from outside. That is not our own. And when we talk about the democracy, and when democracy always divides people, it's a Prajatantra unites people, because we all serve to everybody. And there are so many discussions about that, when only this can be, Prajatantra can be defined only by conduct, not by dividing you are this and you are that. So if we are able to do that, I think we will be doing much better job. And then that will be, that today, how can that be done? That can be done for Ayurveda and yoga as a separate world order we need to create. By the way, both Ayurveda and yoga, they were all supposedly Sudra class people who knew how to take care of the people. They were not the Brahmins who were taking care of it. They were the Sudras who were Vaidyas and who used to do everything. And so if we create a world order which is actually becoming popular in the rest of the world, I suggest that we have a system called Ramatva world order, where the three things we all need to practice, each one of us needs to be practiced. Forget about young people. They will see us and they will practice. Keep one's word, service to only others, not to us, not to ours. And world should be run by ideas of people who are free, or the praja. I think with those, I would like to close. I'm sorry if I've taken more time. Sorry if I offended anyone. That was not my purpose of trying to do this. I certainly have taken double the time normally allotted to people. But since I waited so long and I just got up so early in the morning, I thought I must assert myself, especially in the name of the people. 4 or 5 of my students and colleagues have joined this. So I'm sorry to have taken more time, but thank you very much for letting me continue. Thank you.
So thank you, Professor Balram Singh. So this non-costly science of Shudra-based Varna Vyavastha. So that title itself sounds, a distinctive sounding. That is very much reflected in your presentation also. Because I find that taking into account all your these perspectives, viewpoints, I find that as Gautam Patel has rightly pointed out, Sahaja Dharma, right? This Sahaja Dharma, one should be proud in his Sahaja Dharma. Then one need not to be worried about that he is Shudra or this, because all these 4 aspects are very essential, part and parcel, inalienable segments of human life, cosmos. These all 4 segments. And in that context, we talked of Vyadha story. Therefore, as Balram Singh has rightly pointed out, a Shudra, because if he understands his duty, responsibility rightly, because his service is more, it says, scaffolding, he is upholding, he is the the basic karma on earth, producing that productive function done by the Shudra, because it is more, it supports all other system, the life system. Therefore, one needs to be proud in one's own Sahaja Karma. And by discharging the Sahaja Karma honestly and in perfection through surrender, he will be raised to other dimensions of consciousness and life. Then the whole world will be, in peace, in harmony. Once the Sahaja Dharma, it is Ramaraja. He very well pointed out Ramaraja, those 3 dictums: service, word, keeping word, service, and all these aspects put together. His scientific temper, because one of the distinctiveness of Balram Singh's presentation is long years of work or activity in science, genuine science. Therefore, he is able to view things in a highly scientific way that illuminates whatever he presents. We get better perception because of his sharp scientific temperament point of view. Therefore, as you suggested in our next dialogues, monthly discourses, we will try our level best. We will discuss together how to take it forward in a very ideal way, so far as possible. Then only it will benefit. Otherwise, it will become a ritualistic monthly this thing. Therefore, that your suggestion we will seriously take into account, and you have brilliantly brought about another perspective which gives us a lot of information. I would request Professor Sarbhat to make some observation before we going to Dr. K.R. Nair. Professor Bhat sir, you can make a few observations on Balram Singh's presentation before we go to Dr. K.R. Nair, please. Bhat sir, please unmute. Bhat sir, please unmute. Yeah, please.
Type of analysis which Professor Balram Singh has presented. In fact, he has rightly pointed out that the word Shudra should be understood in a respectable manner as standing for seva, that is service, social service. In fact, the Shudras provide the foundation for society, and therefore their services need to be recognized and valued. So, because they are the upholder of the society. So, and etymologically also he has referred to that. So, it's a very good presentation that he has made, and his suggestion is that our deliberations, no doubt, are theoretical, but they should also have some practical outcome. And practical outcome could be in the form of proper dissemination, in the form of say pamphlets or books, etc. And the proceedings of the these webinars can be brought out. This is one way. The other way is to involve young people, because it is the young people who are innovative, who are dynamic, and it is they who care for transcending the caste confinements. So we have, say, greater hope from the younger generation, and this cancer of casteism need to be transcended, need to be cured and overcome. And for that, what we require is also overhauling of our system of education. Because through education only we can have a change of mindset of the young. And lastly, we have to talk in terms of cooperation, harmony, rather than conflict, etc. This sort of transcendence from aham to sarvam, from I to we. Because if we overcome our narrow confinements, self-centeredness, then of course casteism will be definitely overcome. So we appreciate the views of Professor Balram Singh, and hope that he will always be shedding fresh lights in our, contributing to our deliberations.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor.
He has talked of karma also very much. Huh?
Yeah.
Quite often he has used the word karma.
Yeah.
And so I propose that our next theme could be the doctrine of karma, and karma understood as a seva, service.
So Professor Balram Singh very often talks on karma on different platforms I have seen. So if acceptable, he can make the next theme presentation for our monthly dialogue.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. So may I invite Dr. K.R.S. Nair?
Yes, sir, I am here.
Okay. But sir, we are, Dr. K.R.S. Nair, you are welcome. And you could not join before, though you tried because of technical problem. I introduced K.R.S. Nair, a little while ago. And I hope that Dr. K.R.S. Nair will enlighten us because I hope that he will mainly focus on Guru's perspective, Navajyoti Sri Karunagara Guru's perspective on caste system and a new social order. I hope he will ground his presentation on that premise. Welcome, Dr. K.R.S.
Thank you, Professor Gopinathan Pillai. Good evening to all of the distinguished guests who are participating in this program. After listening to all the learned speakers right from the beginning, I have a feeling that I can skip the first part of the title of this topic, that is aberrations of Varna Vyavastha as caste system. Because at the end of the day, when Professor Gopinathan Pillai sits back and jots down the main key takeaways of this colloquium, what are the practical aspects that can be implemented to make serious inroads into the dysfunctional caste system existing in the country for centuries? What are they? What are the key points that can be taken down? I think there is little meaning in digging the past. I think there is little meaning in doing postmortem of what happened up to yesterday. What is relevant is to make use of the power of now. The power of now. What can we do? Otherwise, the posterity will not forgive us. What is the power of now? Let me put it this way. See, it is stated by Swami Vivekananda that two types of forces are in operation continuously in nature. These two types of forces operating in nature are, one is constantly differentiating, the other is constantly unifying. And the best example of the constantly differentiating factor that is impacting the social life of human beings is the caste system that is prevalent in the country today. So what are we going to do about that? Pedagogic discussions apart, what are we practically going to do something about to end this caste system forever? Or to impact it in a significant way? Have we got a remedial action? Apart from preaching, that is what is to be considered, I feel. Let me present these a few points before you to ponder over. Why this nation, which gave the whole world the noble concepts like Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu, Vasudeva Kudumbagam, Satyam Vada Dharmam Chera, Satyameva Jayate Na Anrutam, failed to walk the talk and could not succeed in ensuring happiness and justice to all the citizens across the board, and present the country itself to the world as a unified nation where all could live as one family without any racial or caste-based discrimination and inequalities. Number two, why the various acts, laws and legislations could not be enforced in letter and spirit to provide reasonable livelihood opportunities and a satisfactory standard of living to the downtrodden in the country? Why the modern version of Asha Bharat could not be a nation that can boast of equality, fraternity and brotherhood as its hallmark, as were the hallmarks of the Rigvedic India? And why India failed in the eyes of the Human Rights Watch? Human Rights Watch has observed a number of problems with the caste system, ill effects of the caste system prevailing in India in particular. The answers to these questions will not any constitutional or statutory bodies or research organizations. If that was the case, we should not have been trailing even after 70 years of independence. Then where is this hope? What is the remedy? We have to identify the root cause of the malady instead of adopting ad hoc measures like forming new commissions and resorting to symptomatic treatments. The etiology of the disease demands a spiritual approach. Remember that the clarion calls like Vasudeva Kudumbagam, Loka Samasta, Sukhino Bhavantu, etc. came from the ancient rishis of India, from the robust foundation of Sanatana Dharma. That is an eternal way of righteous living. As observed in the background paper for this monthly dialogue series, the fundamental reason for the socio-cultural degradation of the Indian society, the Hindus in particular, is the utter neglect of the Sanatana Dharma and Yugadharma. Sanatana Dharma envisages eternal principles founded on the universal laws of nature. Under that, where is the scope for any discrimination between people, among classes? We understand that ancient India had a variety of ethnic groups and religious minorities which lived together peacefully over the centuries. The spirit of tolerance and respect for others' views was a legacy of the Rigvedic culture. But what happened? That harmonic sense of equality, which was the order of Rigvedic period, disappeared gradually in the later periods of time, especially with the advent of Trimurti system. The divisive Varna and caste mentality took an upper hand, setting in the degeneration of the once robust and harmonious social fabric of the country. It accorded a privileged position to the Brahmanas vis-a-vis the other classes, which in turn upset the earlier Vedic principle of harmonious coexistence and equality. We have deviated from these two dharmas, Sanatana Dharma and Yugadharma, by observing systems, customs, rituals, worships, all contrary to the principles enunciated in these dharmas. and that way lost the character of an old and hallowed civilization with rich spiritual heritage. India became progressively fragmented with scourge of casteism, religious fanaticism, and an upsurge of neo-political warring ideologies. So what is the remedy? Remedy is obvious. Navajodhisri Karunagara Guru says, the highly dysfunctional Varna Vyavastha should go. You may feel that this is not practicable, but it is practicable. It has been showed. It has been demonstrated. It is empirically being proved in this organization called Shantigiri Ashram that it is possible. The Brahmins have to take the lead for that. If they can renounce the self-assumed supremacy over the other classes and castes, the nation can recoup the earlier Vedic idea of uniting together as one group, conversing together with one mind, and living together based on the principles of equality expressed as welfare and well-being for all. As the Rigveda prayer says, Samgachatam Samvadatvam Samvo Manamsa Janadam. So these are the prescriptions and age-old proven practices for the social integration and peace at large. And Guru once that gives a warning that if the Brahmins fail to take the lead in establishing an egalitarian society by giving up their ego, see what is happening is that primarily the individual ego gets extrapolated to become group ego, and group ego takes upper hand, and then this stratification in the society comes. And if Brahmins fail to take a lead in establishing this egalitarian society, capable leaders from the other castes would come forward. These are Guru's words. Capable leaders from the other castes will come forward and do the needful. They will be unstoppable, and the Brahmins will have to pay for their misadventures. For the necessary changes to happen, the first of all, the different worship system should go. In Kali Yuga, there is no supremacy for Devas, as highlighted in the earlier papers also. What is relevant for this Yuga is Jnana Marga or wisdom tradition. When the context changes, the content has to change. Context is Yuga and the content is the Dharma for the given Yuga. What is relevant is wisdom tradition for the Kali Yuga. That is the reason why Kali Yuga is said to be the Yuga for seeking deliverance, salvation. The Trimurti tradition followed in the current Yuga is contrary to the spirit of Sanatana Dharma, which is rooted in the wisdom tradition. Besides dividing human society into 4 hierarchical caste systems and according Brahmins a superior status, Hinduism extolled the supremacy of gods and resorted to worshipping deities using mantra and tantra. The polytheism and caste-based stratification of society that was followed by Hinduism were not acceptable to the other communities. That is why this Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, and sects like Kabir Pan, Brahma Samaj, Arya Samaj, etc. emerged. And that is also the fallout of the widespread religious conversion from Hindus to Christianity, Islam, etc. Instead of a pre-centric, that is Brahmin-dominated, ritualistic temple tradition that is followed in the country today, the need of the hour is to have a Guru-centric Jnana Marga, which is exposed in the Sanatana Dharma. Segregation of Hindus into different sects like Saiva, Shakta, Vaishnava with hundreds of subsects under them will only foster sectarian interest and will be the sure recipe for perpetual disunity and power struggles among the Hindus. The temple tradition created all sorts of caste restrictions, superstitions, untouchability, and other vices. Different deities like demigods and evil spirits with different names and forms were installed in temples and worshipped with the tantric and mantric rituals with intermediation of the priests. As an offshoot of this, performance of siddhi, animal sacrifices, even human sacrifices, display of miracles, exorcism all became widespread, especially in rural India, and are continued even in the 21st century India. In this milieu, how can the country long for social integration and unity? Guru also points out that the distorted worship system of multitudes of demigods, kinnaras, bhutaganas, and other types of demonic and disturbed spirits roaming in the astral world was a major reason for the human sufferings like incurable diseases. Any number of families you can find even today where offsprings are there who are mentally challenged for life, physical, mental deformities, etc. Worship of devas and devis as well as other demigods is against the dharma of Kali Yuga, stresses Guru. He asks us to recognize the supremacy of Brahman as the ultimate divine power and worship the omnipotent Brahman only. Now let me come to the initiatives briefly taken by the Guru through Shantigiri Ashram. In Jnanamarga, there is no discrimination based on caste, religion or other classifications. Varnasrama dharma will be based on the eternal law of internal inherent quality of one's jiva. The degree of brightness, that is the intensity of color or varna in one's jiva. Mind you, one's jiva, the color of one's jiva, that is the punya, determines whether one belongs to Brahmin or other classes. That way, all the four varnas, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Sudra, all the four varnas can be born as offspring to the same family, same parents. Now, what all prescriptions Guru has given, how he has implemented in Shantigiri Ashram, let me tell you. Shantigiri spiritual zone and prayer hall are open to all the people, irrespective of caste, creed, color, religions, etc. Anybody can come and pray in Shantigiri. The monks and devotees of the ashram belong to different religions, castes, etc. by birth. Now, one of the major reasons for this caste discrimination perpetuating is because of not allowing at all inter-caste marriages. Human Development Report says that less than 5% of marriages in the country are happening between castes, inter-caste marriages or inter-religious marriages. As against this, more than 70% of the marriages performed in Shantigiri lineage is inter-caste, inter-religious marriages. As against this 5% in the country. The life partners are selected based on the compatibility of their jivas in a spiritual manner and not based on any horoscope or caste system, etc. Incidentally, there was one group called SARI, Social Attitudes Research for India, a couple of years back, in 2016, I think. It was reported in the paper Hindu. It interviewed 1,270 people. This organization interviewed 1,270 people in Delhi and 1,470 people in UP. And specifically, these people were asked. And remember, these people were highly educated people included. And these people were highly educated actually. This number I gave belonged to highly educated people. And they were asked about their opinion about this inter-caste, inter-religious marriages. The disturbing, disquieting revelation of the survey was that more than 25% of these 1,270 adults interviewed in Delhi and more than 45% of the adults interviewed in UP, they were against inter-caste marriages, they were against inter-religious marriages, and they opined that there should be a law brought out in the country that banning marriages between caste and religion. See where our educational system has taken us. So is there any scope by educating people you can remove this caste discrimination in the country? Never. So that is the question. That is why I am stressing this fact that more than 70% of the marriages in the ashram is inter-caste and inter-religious marriages. These are the practical ways in which you have to address this problem. And not by any sort of pedagogic discussions and all. And Guru taught that transformation of the society can happen only through the self-development of individuals, spiritual emancipation of women, and upliftment of the households. Studies show how especially the women folk in the downtrodden sections of the society, how they are suffering sexual abuses, abysmal living conditions, poor low paid wages. And this Devadasi system, especially in southern India, hundreds of low-caste women, they are being dedicated to a particular temple or a deity as Devadasis, and they are en route to prostitution. And finally, auction to some brothel. That is what is happening. I am talking about 21st century India. Guru practiced what he preached through this parampara. He said, the revival of the country should be achieved through revival of the homes. For revival of the homes to happen, the mother, who is the first guru of the children, should become virtuous and knowledgeable. Nobody can transform the world at one go. It will be slow and steady only. If at least one woman can be led to wisdom, one home will improve. Her next generation will improve. And if that is done with prayers, the seed thus sown will sprout and spread throughout the world. Slow but sure. And most contemporary ashram, you can see that they will not permit women as inmates in the ashram. As against the fighting against all sort of odds, it was not that it was a seamless journey for Guru. Guru encountered lot of problems, including police cases, when he wanted to allow women and girls in Sandhagiri ashram as inmates. Fighting against all that, Guru permitted girls and women to become inmates, and various economic activities were started in the ashram and its outskirts for capacity building and empowerment of women. Because Guru always stressed that it is only through the women that the country can be transformed. Now, the most important thing which I deliberately avoided because I was not sure whether I will be able to talk about that is the social spiritual re-engineering kick-started in the parampara, in the lineage by Guru through what is called Guru Puja or Pitru Siddhi. See, even if you see what is happening, if you allow intercaste marriages, interreligious marriages, you have to understand that two families belonging to two different religions or castes are coming together, and thereafter they are proceeding as one family, one unit, unified. So that way, when you are daily on a daily basis, when you are encouraging such sort of marriages in the society, what sort of transformation can happen? It starts from the individual only. But one thing, we have to understand that this problem besetting the present generation is not because of something which happened yesterday only. For eons together, the deities worshipped by our forefathers and their fathers and forefathers, their ancestors, these sort of multitudes of gods, devas and devis, etc. And these Pitrus, after their death, when their ancestral souls, they are stationed in certain zodiac constellation which are influencing the offsprings in their particular family, in their given family. You and me, all of us, are governed, are influenced by these astral souls of our forefathers in the astral sphere. The zodiac constellation in which they are stationed. We cannot escape from that. So what is the way out? You have to cleanse them. You have to purify them. You have to spiritually purify them, cleanse them. And for that, a vision which is expanding our generation together. In fact, Guru says that at least 7 generations are required for all the Pitrus of one's Gotra, one's clan to be purified. It requires at least 7 generations, Guru says that. And that has been kickstarted. In fact, this particular type of marriage I was saying, the compatibility, looking into the compatibility of the girl and boy, without any consideration regarding caste, religion, etc., or horoscope, etc. This looking into the compatibility of the bridegroom and the bride for wedlock is aimed at making them ready to receive the souls of these Pitrus, Devas and Devis. Even Devas and Devis are also cleansed, also purified. So to receive these souls to come as offspring in this offspring to this couple, the new couple, that is how it has been planned. That is why the marriage has been planned in such a way. So this is not for one generation. Guru's vision for cleansing the entire world is for generations together. These are the practical aspects which have been kickstarted in Sandhagiri Ashram. Please consider these things. Please look into that. See the merits of that. See the merits of the intercaste marriages, 70%, more than 70% intercaste marriages. See the merit of one worship of one God. See the merit of permitting all castes, religions, etc. to this prayer hall of the ashram. And see the merit of empowering the women folk in the country. Starting at little societies. Yes, this parampara is not a big lineage. It's a small one. But we have started what is required to be done. And this is spreading like anything. A day will come when Everybody will be talking about this mechanism, what I call the socio-spiritual re-engineering that has been kickstarted by Navajot Sri Karnagara Guru at Shantigiri Ashram. This is the ultimate objective, is to re-establish Sanatana Dharma, re-establish Yugadharma, which is totally different from what was supposed to be the case. Yugadharma as well as Sanatana Dharma is totally gone. And you have identified it as Hindu Dharma. No. Sanatana Dharma is not the Hindu Dharma. Sanatana Dharma is irrespective of the religion. It is for eternal righteous living based on the fundamental foundational principles of the nature of law. It cannot be cornered by any particular religion for that matter. So these have to be understood. I think these are supremely important for this particular topic that we have been discussing this day. Thank you. I think I will stop here. Otherwise, it will be.
Thank you, Dr. K.R.S. Nair. And I think that because your presentation, because such topics, because when we deal with the philosophy, spirituality, we deal with the general conceptions, higher conceptions. We never go into the minute aspects of our philosophy or spirituality in its practice. It is very much there. It is very much there in our practical life. We come into contact with whatever he has spoken, presented. We come across it. But in the scholarly discussions and platforms, we never address these things or the relevance of those things in religion. Religion, we talk very abstract level, say that these are, but at the micro level, how religion, belief systems, practices are operated in our daily life, in our daily religious practices. And what are its merits, demerits, and impact and influences in the making of ourself, or in the elevation of ourself, or in the acquiring of, nurturing and nourishing of qualities and values, virtues. Is there any nexus between the religious practices and our faiths we uphold, and the nourishing and nurturing of virtues and higher orientations and propensities in our life? These correlations we don't never look into. It is here, because he rightly pointed out, it is a Guru-centric jnana path, because Guru's the very mission was to enlighten the humanity that all these miseries and human predicament is because the humanity is not following. We talk of Dharma, but humanity doesn't follow the Dharma of this present time, present age, or present yuga. Such discourses or addressing are seldom found in the teachings of great seers. Since Krishna, Sri Krishna, we find, if we examine teachings of great master seers, as I have pointed out earlier also, this relevance of practicing the Dharma of this yuga is seldom discussed and addressed by Shankaracharya, Madhvacharya, Ramanuja, Nair. In none of their teachings we find it, because it is taken for granted, and the past practices, belief systems in the Treta Yuga and Kali Yuga are practiced, continued, and followed. Nobody differentiates it, and we substantiate it in the name of one tattva, that everything leads to Brahman. So this aspect Guru brought about clearly and taught the world that you are, because Christianity and Islam, Guru said, they are the part of, their teachings are part of the teaching of this yuga. But these great Acharyas, Nabi and Christ couldn't fulfill the mission which they had undertaken in this, according to the Dharma of this Kali Yuga. That is why again, this all this chaos, therefore, Guru rightly pointed out, we can have a better future only when we relocate the Dharma of this Yuga, this time, this age, then only these calamities can be wiped out. That is why a new parampara is coming up in Shantigiri beyond caste, as he has said. Because I don't often claim, because since I am the organizer, it is not fair on my part to say always this. But beyond caste, community, religion, gender, region, a new parampara comprising all the religion, a new ideology, a new teaching is rising in Shantigiri. So we are thankful to Dr. K.R.S. Nair, because several speakers are waiting. And with the permission of all other speakers, may I invite Professor Sebastian Velasheri, because he wants to attend some family function after this, because he thought that it will be finished according to our time. Because apology for all other speakers, may I request Professor Sebastian Velasheri, a highly learned professor and widely known for his scholarship